This is my vintage 1970 Pettibone Mulliken Multihoe backhoe. Similar to a dyno. Uses the GM 353 diesel, which is now the Detroit 353 diesel. It's a 53 series 3-cylinder diesel engine. This engine has served me well for the past several years. Um, it was really abused over its life prior to me getting it, and I haven't exactly been the greatest with it either, but it's very durable to say the least. But I finally found a way to damage it, and I made a big mistake, which was I had a problem with the water pump leaking. The seal and the bearing on the water pump had failed. It leaked out all the coolant last fall. After I replaced the pump, I was testing it with just straight water, no antifreeze. And I then blew a hydraulic line, so I ended up just parking the machine and leaving it. And I neglected to open, there's actually some drain petcocks on the side of the engine block that are supposed to be opened, and I neglected to drain the water out of the cooling system. It froze over this past winter from what I can surmise, and now I've got some damage. My radiator has several leaks in it. You can actually see it's still showing wet from the top. It's actually been raining today, so some of that is rainwater, but there's actually some spots in there that clearly the water was leaking out of. So I know that I've got a radiator that's going to need to be recored, or at least repaired. But what concerns me more is that when I top off the cooling system, I get water coming out of the engine out of a little vent line, which right here where my finger is, this is the fuel line that comes out of the governor fuel pump assembly here. Comes out and goes into the engine block right here where my finger is. Just to the right of that, right here, there's another small line. It looks like a 1/4-inch metal line. It comes out of a little fitting that just goes straight down behind the starter and it just faces the ground, and it's open to the atmosphere. So clearly that's a vent or some sort of a like condensation drain or something like that. That line right there is where the water comes out of. I've had water come out of there in spurts before, but usually I just attributed that to condensation that was in the cylinders when I first started it after it sat for a while, and it always stopped. Now what happens is the water comes out there in a pretty steady stream when the motor's running, and it stops only after all of the radiator is empty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start it up so that you can hear what the motor sounds like. Nothing coming out of the exhaust stack. Spitting water out of there right now with a lot of soot or oil. It's oily. It would be coming out in the steady stream, but most of it's already leaked out. Now, when the cooling system is topped off, the water will just continue to flow out of there after I shut it down for about a minute. So, actually, the engine still sounds exactly the way it did before this happened. And then the other detail I should add is that when the cooling system was empty, I started it up, totally forgot about the fact that I had the straight water in there, so didn't realize that the cooling system was empty, and actually was running the machine, driving it around, and then it stalled, and I realized the reason why I had it stalled was because it had overheated. So I let it cool down. I made sure I didn't put cold water in a hot engine. I let it cool down, came back a few hours later, tried to top off the radiator, and that's when I discovered the holes in the radiator. So I topped it off and started it up, and that's when the water started pumping out of that line. Again, that line is right here. So that's where it stands right now. All right, one last thing I want to add, one last observation. I just checked the oil level with the dipstick. I wiped it and checked it, and the oil level is on the low side, but the oil, other than being its characteristic black color, has no indication of water contamination in it, and also the crankcase is not overfilled. So I have no reason to believe that any of that water that I'm losing is getting into the crankcase. It all seems to be confined to the part of the engine that has to do with the airbox area, from what I understand, from what I've been told. And I just find it interesting that when the radiator is filled and I take the cap off the top, I don't see any bubbles coming out to indicate exhaust gases or compressed gases from the combustion chamber being pushed into the cooling system. But they must be getting in there, because I can't think of any other way the water would be getting into that area of the engine without going through there. So of course I could be just completely wrong. I don't really know the anatomy of this, and that's why I'm getting advice online from people who do know these motors.